Elliott, you want to say something about DBSA?
Is it still morning? Yeah. This morning, Elliott from the DBSA. The DBSA stands for Development Bank of Southern Africa. Of course, we are a debt financier for infrastructure projects on the continent in the sectors of energy, transport, ICT, and bulk water. But as we all know, and I think it has been discussed in the first session as well as by my colleague here, the biggest problem is, of course, in the development phase. Now, the DBSA being an entity established in terms of the DBSA Act, not a private company, we take our so-called profits and we use that money every year to finance project development. Now, the important thing here is the DBSA finances project developers. We are not a project developer, but we provide money for project developers. Now, this in some cases, of course, enables us to take much more risk than the project developers take themselves. Now, in light of this, there is 4 funds that the DBSA manages which are accessible to everybody. The first one is there is an EU-sponsored fund called Infrastructure Investment Program for South Africa. It's there on our website on the very first front page. You'll find it. That is 100 million euros provided by the EU that is under management by DBSA, money to be used solely for project development in South Africa and in some cases in SADC countries only. And that is available until 2020. If you are a project developer and you don't come and fetch it, you lose, you snooze. Simple as that. We also have $10 million sitting that is provided by SADC, the SADC Secretariat. It's managed at the DBSA solely for infrastructure projects in the SADC region. Now, that as well is also on our front page. If you just go to www.dbsa.org, you find it right there. It's not hidden anywhere else. Therefore, you can also contact us. That money is available. It is grant financing, non-recourse, non-repayable, mahala. If you have a social grant in South Africa, if you know what that means, that's what it is. You get it, and you don't even look back. It's available purely for that. And as I highlighted earlier, DBSA itself also provides plus minus 200 million purely for infrastructure project preparation on the continent every single year. Now, lastly, I'll just highlight 4 things that I think why we are also best positioned to be involved in project development. Firstly, is that developers like us because we take risk with them and in some cases more risk than they do. Okay. Consultants like us because with the funds that we manage, if a developer comes and applies for funding and we approve money for them, we don't take money and put it in the bank account of a developer. We pay money directly to the consultant for a work that has been done. Therefore, a typical project that would have been, say, an RFP issued by a municipality where people say that municipality takes long to pay, they have their finances are not in order, etc. All that is gone because you get paid directly by us at your nice full rates instead of your government-based lower rates that you normally earn. And then I would say the next thing is government entities such as your, say, Transnet or Transnet equivalent in many other countries. They like us because we are also government-owned. In essence, it's very easy for them to trust us. And we also have the political mileage that when a project is stuck for any other reasons, we have the leverage to call a minister instead of a project developer that will be going to the newspapers and making all the noises. We can easily ask for a meeting with the minister and say, we provided money for that project. Can we fix whatever that is missing? Therefore, we provide that kind of security and that kind of support for developers. Lastly, most developers, some of them, they're just given a license or so by their respective governments to develop projects. We also have a team of specialists in all the 4 sectors that I highlighted earlier, including environmental specialists, social and institutional specialists. We have financial modelers in-house, and their job every single day is to review the work that's done by consultants on every invoice that we go in to pay. And the primary goal is we review that, you help them to structure it in such a manner that when all studies are done, there is no issues whether a bank can finance that type of transaction, whether that type of transaction or not. So our scorecard is value of bankable projects and nothing else. Thanks.
Okay, another detailed introduction. Let me turn to Elliott. DFIs have been at the forefront of developing financing infrastructure projects in Africa. What are the various roles that DBSA and other DFI peers play to bring in financing projects, and what support do you provide?
Thanks, Angela. I think the fundamental principle which I learned when I joined the DFI for the first time is that if a project cannot attract project development funding, it's most likely going to struggle to attract debt financing at the end. Any project that has the probability of attracting debt financing in the end or at financial close, if you look at it at concept, it should be able to attract project development funding at the very beginning. And the advantage of project development funding from a DFI, which is one of the roles that the DBSA plays, is that you have a bank looking at your studies throughout your development cycle so that at the end or at financial close, there are no issues that are raised. In most cases, across our continent, as we all know, we have public entities coming and saying, I have prepared everything. Here is my file. Here is my PIM. Can you please give me $100 million? And then banks like Standard Bank, DBSA, etc., they go through it and they say, this is missing, this is not up to scratch, bank can't take this risk, etc., etc. Now, with DFIs, you have the opportunity to close those things up front and leave all questions about financial close right now while you're developing the project and not at the very end. So that is what the DBSA does with regards to this. My colleague here spoke, Alex just spoke about the risk of how long it takes to close a single infrastructure project, for example, and he spoke about 5.5 years. Now, that is a risk that a project developer faces upfront. You, in most cases, have the opportunity to partner with a DFI that has political mileage that will be able to address some of the risks that actually frustrate private sector project developers during development phase. You also have the opportunity, for example, there's issues about regulatory approvals. In some countries, you need some licenses. In some cases, you need regulatory changes, etc. DFIs like the DBSA provide that type of support. But most importantly, as I highlighted earlier on, there is no, and it is an absolute fact, because I was a consultant and I had this myth or perception before I joined a DFI, there is no lack of project development funding for infrastructure projects on our continent. There is more money than the project can take. Thanks.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.